Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another gameplay. I do have some bad news before I start. I will be unavailable for a little while after this recording goes up. I am going on vacation and will not be at my rig to play Magic online for a little while, and that will be until the 5th of July. After that, I'll be back to my regular schedule of posting videos, but I just want to let everybody know. I'll put it on the info on my channel just in case anyone's wondering. But I know I'm breaking my 1 week resolution, but it's I need a vacation from work, so I'm going on a road trip. Other than that, I have a few gameplays for you, and this time I am not even playing Brea. So let's see. I was just tuning this list in the JFF lobby and the tournament practice, so these are across both of them. I think the deck's getting to where I want it to be. So the first game is against Wagner, and let's jump into it. Let's just hit play. All right, let me get stuff. Pop that up. I'll put the commanders on this side and keep stuff from going crazy. Alright, so I'm playing against Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, and I have a functional opening hand. I have turn 3 Rashmi, if I don't have to spend the Mana Leak or the Pongify, because I can use Expedition Map to go get Ancient Tomb. So, opponent leads basic. I'm going to play the Flutter Strand out. They hit Plint. I think about countering this to stifle them on mana development, but I have no other way to do so, so I decided that I'd rather just put Rashmi down as soon as possible. Pick up Merchant Scroll, that's going to be useful. This almost always spells Get Force, but this draws a card off Rashmi, and then Force will draw another card off Rashmi. They get a Lotus Cobra into Wasteland draw, and they waste my Ancient Tomb correctly. I'm going to Merchant Scroll and get the Force. I got a Scalding Tarn off the top. Pick up the Force Wheel, and I get to crash in for 2 with Rashmi. Pretty sweet. Lotus Cobra is continuing to create value for them. Abzan Beastmaster. So, beginning your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with greatest power or tied for the greatest power. So, I'm tempted to Pongify the Lotus Cobra, but then that would be giving them a card for Abzan Beastmaster and something better to beat me down with. They go with, let me pause that, Ronas, the Indomitable. Death Touch, Indestructible, needs a creature with power 4 or greater on the battlefield with him to be able to attack or block. And 3 mana for a +2/0 effect. So I'm going to Mana Leak just to tap them out, so that way they can't pump one of their dudes into the 4/0, 4X, and be able to use Ronas to block and kill my Rashmi. So I'm going to tap them out here. This also is a good way to guarantee that they don't have anything else coming down. So I'm trading Mana Leak even though I drew a card off it. Because I drew this card, I can trade Mana Leak that way. Because Rashmi replaced Mana Leak, this was a 0 trade. I just get to tap them out for the turn if they were trying to do something else. They might not have been, but it's an alright play in my opinion. I'm planning to pitch Pongify to Forceville right now. I got Preordain. Definitely going to lead that. And I find Treachery on the top, and I jump through it real quick. Most importantly, Jace the Mind Sculptor is in the top. I'm going to put him on top of my library, and I'm going to bounce Ronas just for the continued tempo play. And I don't attack because I want to be able to kill one of these if they want to go after Jace. So they have to send both of these in if they want to kill Jace the Mind Sculptor. They send Ronas back down. They don't have a land, which is actually pretty huge, because that means they can't send in both of these creatures. If they had played a land, they would have been able to, and I didn't see it, they would have been able to get Ronas off Lotus Cobra, even if it was a tap land, and had 3 open, meaning they can attack with both of these. Whichever one I block to kill, they pump with Ronas, and they trade that creature for Rashmi and Jace, and that probably would have been an advantageous position. Fortuitously, they do not have a land to punish me, so I will Treachery the Lotus Cobra here. And I stacked that Rampant Growth on top of my deck after the Jace Brainstorm to be able to cast and shuffle away the extra land that I had in my hand there. And I get to make a massive untap. I'm going to... Now, this was a little bit of a lost value. I could just slam Amnesia, but I really want to make sure that they don't have like they have actual gas in hand that I want to spend Amnesia on. If it's just one business spell, I'd rather just sit on the Force of Will and use this turn for more development if possible. But because it is all business, I'm going to Amnesia away. So it was Landfall 4/4, Varwalls, Sheoldred, and Explosive Vegetation. So they almost certainly would have played the Explosive Vegetation this coming turn. They get a fetch land. So glad I have their Lotus Cobra. And push Atraxa in. And I'm just going to force Atraxa. I'm not playing around with any... Forcing Atraxa also allows me to get the Rashmi trigger on my opponent's turn when I was tapped out. And now that Jace has started to do work, I find Mystic Confluence, and that should be able to seal the game. So I get the Lotus Cobra, I use Fellwar Stone, cast the birds off the top that I stacked there with Jace, get to regrow my Merchant Scroll, play Elvish Mystic, crash into the red zone, and now I am set up conveniently. So they play Myria Angel, which is the perfect target. I have this Mystic Confluence, which I can cast off this Fellwar Stone. I'm going to cast that, bounce Absent Beastmaster and Ronas. I get to cast Think Twice off the top of my deck. I don't remember if I set this up. I think I had, which is why I didn't want to cast the Merchant Scroll. So I get to cast Think Twice, and with that value on the table, my opponent scoops the game, and I think that's correct at this point. My control is so strong in the game that I'm just going to slowly beat down with 2 power creatures, but I don't think I'm ever going to let them get out of this situation. So definitely a great game. And Wagoner with an interesting deck. All right. This was a game against Tasker that did not last very long. So I'll jump into the other one. All right. This was Jahuli playing Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. Pretty scary commander, potentially. One of the big mono green. So I take off Spell Pierce Protection on turn 2 to deploy this Cold Steel Heart. If I get land, it means turn 3 Rashmi. I get an Academy Rune. It's not the best land, but I'll definitely take it, especially in the green matchup where I might need to use it. They go with Death Watch Recruiter here. And you'll see something interesting. So the way that this works, it might look like they only have 2, but they can use Selvala to make an additional mana. Basically, Selvala reads filter 1 green, produce 2 green, almost always, because her power is 2. So they can use Death Watch Recruiter on the end of my turn if they so choose. I pick up Simic Growth Chamber, and this drastically changes what I was thinking about doing. I was going to take a very slow development turn, but I decided to go as deep as I possibly can here. So I Thought Vessel, get a Coast off the top. That'll be useful. I think I make a misplay here. Nate might be able to confirm that for me. So I play the Winter Orb. Now I play the Tapland, or the Ravnica Karoo, which is what the cycle of tap lands that bounce are called, after the original cycle of lands that was bounce and untap basic, the white of which was named Karoo, Karoo. These are the Ravnica Karoos, or Rav Karoos, is the cycle that I've always known them to be called. So I play this, and I probably should have picked up an island, because I'm going to be able to untap Ruins. Sorry, let me pause. I'm going to be able to untap Academy Ruins. No, I'm not going to untap whatever my basic is, because I'm going to untap Simic Growth Chamber underneath the orb. So it's probably better to have the island in my hand, because that means I have an untapped island if I'm untapping the Simic Growth Chamber every turn. I don't think it's really punishing, because I have this Coast in hand, which is better than... Playing Coast is better than playing Island, especially when I've been under no pressure the entire game. My opponent, I don't think is very experienced with playing against a Winter Orb. They failed to use Arbor Elf at the end of their turn, end of my turn, just to untap a land. So they started their turn with 1 land down. I was basically trying to set up so that way they can't start just dumping mana into Death Watch Recruiter and drawing creatures that way. Because I think my only way to beat them is to outdraw them. Pick up Cyclonic Rift here. So I think for a sec. Let me pause. Excuse me. Alright, so I have Garruk Wildspeaker getting to cast the Sylvan Library. And now my plan, I'm just going to use Garruk, untap both of my lands. Oh, alright. So I was going to Cyclonic Rift the Kralin Horde Howler. just to prevent them from getting this discount. Oh no, I've cast 2 spells, so it's gonna flip back anyway. But so I was gonna bounce this anyway. I could also bounce Selvala. I think if this flips back, Selvala doesn't come down this turn unless they have land, and then that taps them out again. So maybe bouncing Selvala would have been correct, but do that, and then I was going to make a beast to help protect Garrick because I don't really need the lands yet, and I'm not terrified of anything that they can hit me with Spell Pierce at this point of the game. So I can let Simic Growth Chamber stay tapped for a turn. Then the following turn, I get to untap Simic Growth Chamber, untap Island Simic Growth Chamber with Garrick. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Acidic Slime, one of their lands, and I have both of these up as well. And I don't think I really fail from that point of the game. All right, into the next one. That was Shahuli. Monsieur P. I played 2 games against him. Pretty cool guy. I think he's still working on the kinks in the deck. It's definitely one of the decks that I've played in paper as far as monocolor. It's definitely it's one of the better decks that scales into multiplayer very well because every player has an end step with Shirai. Whenever a creature with power 1 or less dies, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step if Shirai is still in play. So, yeah, is still on the battlefield, is still in play. So, as long as Shirai doesn't leave the battlefield, you keep getting your creatures with power 1 or less back. And I keep a very iffy opening hand, but I have Think Twice, which is one of the best value cards with Rashmi. And I have Memory Lapse to lap Shirai, and because Memory Lapse is currently bugged on MTGO, no matter what the commander settings are, Memory Lapse will still put the commander, it will show up as if it puts it in the command zone, but it will actually be on top of the player's deck. So next time they draw a card, the commander will disappear from the command zone and appear in their hand. Just like that. And I pick up Mox Diamond off the top. I probably should have pitched Academy Ruins because they're mono black. They have very few ways of dealing with artifacts. So Academy Ruins is probably weaker than a Forest in this matchup in particular. I pitch a Forest though because this is going to be Tropical Island. Fume Spitter. I pick up Amnesia, and immediately my game plan is how can I resolve Amnesia as fast as possible. I put out Prowling Serpent Herd just to put pressure on my opponent. Sorry, I'm jumping through. Lightning Coils is an artifact whenever a non-token dies. Beginning of your upkeep, it gets a charge. If it has 5 or more in your upkeep, you remove all of them and make 3-1 red elemental creature tokens with haste. It's very good in specifically Shirai decks and other decks that care about sacrificing non-token creatures. Shirai just pushes it to a whole new level, though. Imagine sacking a creature or 2 or 3 creatures on your turn. Player B's turn, player C's turn, and player D's turn in a 4-player pod. That's 3, 6, 9, 10, 12. Yeah, 12. And then on your upkeep, you get 12 3-1s. By the way, you'll get 12 3-1s on your next upkeep as well. And that's only at a minor Shirai field of 2 or 3 creatures. It's pretty good. Lightning Coils is a powerful card in this deck. So I'm going to put Rashmi up because I need to generate value off her as soon as possible. They get Mortician Beetle, something I'm not afraid of. I'm going to Think Twice for the value. I get a Negate and a Cephalic Coliseum. I'm going to crash them from 4, and I think they definitely misclick here. They clicked Fume Spitter twice, and they Fume Spitter targeting Fume Spitter, as you'll see. So they don't get to shrink one of my guys. I mentioned in chat, and they're like, yeah, I did misclick. That was a little bit brutal. It's rough. So they Disentomb targeting the Fume Spitter. I'm going to negate, and they scoop the game. I don't remember if they knew about Mystic Confluence or not. I don't think they did. But Mystic Confluence probably would have put this game away as soon as... Well, my plan was I untap, play Cephalic Coliseum or Forest. Doesn't really matter. And I cast Amnesia. I get a free spell, and their hand disappears. And then after that, I keep beating in. Serpaport is actually pretty powerful. 4 power is nothing to scoff at. So having this in the deck is pretty sweet. And then I'm bashing in for 6 a turn. And I have Mystic Confluence and Memory Lapse as protection. I don't think my opponent gets out of it. And the last game against Monsieur is... I see a super land-heavy hand. And I decide to keep it. I want to give it a chance. My opponent F6 their first turn. So I mentioned in chat, I don't want to, yeah, new deck I'm testing. Said no play. No problem. It's fun to play, especially in paper. Just friendly banter. Can I close that from here? I cannot. Okay. I mentioned, I was like, oh, did you F6 your turn? And I think what they did was they won the dice roll, and then they hit F6, or whatever their hotkey is, to pass priority, because they were trying to jump through to the game as fast as possible. But then after they clicked yes, and I clicked keep their hand, or they mulled once. No. Yeah, they mulled. No, they didn't mull once. And I click yes, keep my hand. It auto-yielded their turn all the way through. And because I had already clicked F2, knowing that I wasn't on the play, as soon as I saw that I was on the draw. And then it skipped through their entire turn. So I decided I was just, my hand's all mana anyway. I have Academy runes again. I know it's not going to be good. So I just decided I'm going to pass the turn back. I discard a card. So basically they get to start the game and draw a card on the first turn. It's not the end of the world for me. I have no doubt that Rashmi will bring it back. Botanical Sanctum. And they are testing their deck. Rashmi is not a super competitive deck. I'm not in a league. So I have no issues making these allowances when I'm not playing for any stakes. So they have Blood Pit into Perilous Mer. Probably one of the better starts the Shirai deck gets when there's no broken mana in the format. Or a small fraction of broken mana in the format compared to paper. So I'm just going to keep fetching out or keep playing my lands, making my land drops. My plan right now is win with Bribery. And you'll see in response to Carrion Feeder, I send the Nature's Claim at Perilous Mer. I know they would rather have a +1 counter on Carrion Feeder than 4 life. So I don't want this to resolve and them to be able to sack to this instead. So I just spend it there. And I need to do that before Rashmi comes down, because otherwise they can use Perilous Mer and Fume Spitter to kill Rashmi in conjunction. There's a really cool interaction I don't want to skip through with Solemn Simulacrum that's coming up. Might be this coming turn. Alright, so I just tap out and play Rashmi here after getting the Trop. And I ship the turn back. Yeah, I believe it's this turn. Alright, so here comes Shirei. And alright, here's the value. Alright, so they crash in. Also, they should have also spent with a Fume Spitter. So now they use Fume Spitter targeting Rashmi. And now what is the interaction that I'm talking about? I'm going to give you a sec to see if you see it. So here's what Shirei does, just so you know. Okay, so if you pause the video and you're back with me. So the interaction that they could have done, the way that Shirei works, they will not be able to kill Rashmi before I untap with it, because they'll use Fume Spitter, they'll get Fume Spitter back in their end step, they can use it again, but Rashmi will still be a 0-1, and I'll be untapping with a trigger to be able to, with at least one trigger. So they cannot kill Rashmi before I get to use her ability at least once. Now, what they could have done is use Fume Spitter to target Solemn Simulacrum. Solemn is then a 1-1 for all intents and purposes for what the game sees. And that's why Fume Spitter is very good tech in Shirai, is you can shrink other creatures to 1-1s to have Shirai kill them. So then Fume Spitter would target Solemn. Solemn shrinks. This is after damage, naturally. And then so Fume Spitter will come back to Shirai because of Shirai's trigger, and then you can sack Solemn Simulacrum to Carrion Feeder to draw a card, and then trigger Shirai again, because Solemn's power as last known information was 1 or less. And then during the next end step, Solemn will be returned to play. With these 3 cards, they could have let me have Rashmi, but they would have been able to continuously loop Solemn Simulacrum. And I think that's actually better than trying to remove my Rashmi. Because if you look at how this works, it would be every end step they get a basic land into play tapped, they get to draw a card, and Carrion Feeder goes up by 1 counter. Just for all of those interactions. Or they would gain a life instead of making this go up every other cycle. Because they're going to have so much mana anyway. I think that would have been a better line for my opponent to take. And I pointed out the chat. Like I said, okay, I'll just leave it open. The commanders stay in play for most of the game. So after this triggers, I have something to show you. So Nice editing moto. I'll show you that the next time Shirai goes in this deck. So I bribery my opponent. Ooh, I jumped through the deck. Sorry about that, guys. So I pick my Chaos because it keeps Rashmi alive longer, and I can make Rashmi undie as well. Now she has Undying, and very few. I don't think there's any humans in my deck that matter. So they shrink Rashmi again. So I talk about how this interaction works now that Solemn is gone for good. And opponent forgets to set a stop on main when I'm leaving main 2, so they miss the trigger. They go for Runescar Demon. Luckily, I top deck the Force of Will. I don't need Git Probe in this game. I get Polluted Delta off that. And I'm going to Wild Speaker into an As Foretold. And we talk about how this might be game. This deck is really reliant on its top decks naturally. And it's one of the reasons Rashmi is fun. It's not a guaranteed win. It just starts to snowball at a certain point, and we're rapidly approaching that point. Skursdag High Priest, that is a great Gilded Drake target. I had to kill his Carrion Feeder first. Fortunately, they attack with Carrion Feeder to try to grow this black market some. I would not have done this. But like I said, I would be just looping Solemn Simulacrum indefinitely until my opponent could stop me. I like how this bug is, you may return is still on the battlefield. Nice editing. So I'm going to Gilded Drake now that they don't have a sacrifice outlet in play. Take this Skursdag High Priest. And I get Mystic Confluence off it. It's just backbreaking. I get to crash in. They Fume Spitter. They don't block with the Gilded Drake. They try to get value. And they knew about this Confluence in this game. That's why I was thinking that. So I bounce Shirei and my Gilded Drake back, and then mutilate my board. Wow, brutal. I, of course, forget to change the location setting on Rashmi. Apparently, they're going to be looking at that. It really should be on a trigger or like a replacement effect, because according to Commander rules, it's a replacement effect. Alright, so they're creating a ton of black market value. They Bone Shredder Rashmi away. Hell's Caretaker. Just so much. And this is sort of what Shirai does. If I can't deal with Shirai, I can't stop this deck. So I'm going to put Rashmi into play again. Get to cast a free Gilded Drake because of As Foretold. Thank you, As Foretold. I get to keep the negate up that way. And I'm just going to beast it up some. They chump they block with the Drake by blocking the beast. They shouldn't have done that. They were at 30 life. It's better to kill Garrick, I think. And with Think Twice in my hand, I think my opponent concedes coming up. Yeah, there's the concession. Yeah, it was GG. Hell's Caretaker has a pretty cool, there's some pretty cool shenanigans. I don't know why they paid for Bone Shredder. Probably because they didn't have Shirai. But what they could do is something like Hell's Caretaker targeting Mikaeus, sacrificing the Bone Shredder because it's about to echo away to get Mikaeus. And then the following turn, they can Hell's Caretaker, sacrificing Hell's Caretaker. Then it undies, and they can get back Runescar Demon. Then they have a tutor with all of this mana. Or they could just get Runescar Demon immediately and have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 mana. Like, you have Diabolic Revelations, which is I think that's the 5X Demonic Tutor for X cards. Pretty good if they tutor for like 6 cards. Get a whole new hand out of it. I mean, naturally, I would not allow that to resolve. But they would be able to Demonic Tutor for something off Runescar Demon. And they would be able to do that every other turn as well. The reason I would say get Mikaeus and then into Runescar Demon is it gives you an perpetual loop for Hell's Caretaker, sort of. Because you can use Hell's Caretaker to get Mikaeus. Then Hell's Caretaker itself away to get Runescar Demon. Runescar Demon away to get Carrion Feeder. Oh no, not Carrion Feeder. Fume Spitter. And then use Fume Spitter to remove the +1 counter on Runescar Demon. Fume Spitter will undie because of Mikaeus. And then Runescar Demon has no counter on it, and you can Hell's Caretaker it away again. So there's very cool loops that you can do. Even without Shirai in this deck, there's a lot of fun interactions. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm not going to be on for a while. I'm going to be able to keep up with your comments because I can do that on mobile. And I always love reading them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos on my channel to anyone you think might enjoy it. If you want to support the channel and what I do here and you like my content, you can support me on Patreon. You'll find the link in the description down below. You'll also find the link to my Twitter in the link down in the description down below. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what misplays I made, what you want to see in my upcoming videos, and as long as I didn't talk about the misplays myself. Point out the stuff to me that I miss. That's how I get better at the game, is having my mistakes pointed out to me. And I hope that's how you guys can get better at the game, by maybe seeing some of the mistakes that I make and trying to trip me up and catch me on my own mistakes. Try to outfox me a little bit. All right. I will see you all in the next one, guys.